Ambassador ZYX Tao thought his first day at the Galactic Council would be routine. He was wrong. The humans arrived with gifts. Small carriers with breathing holes. Inside was something the galaxy had never seen. When the carrier opened, chaos erupted. Every alien in the room froze in terror at the tiny Earth creature. The cat walked across the council table like it owned the galaxy. Security alarms screamed. Delegates scrambled for exits. The humans looked confused. They sipped their coffee calmly, as if keeping apex predators as pets was perfectly normal. Then the cat yawned. It showed its teeth. And Ambassador ZYX Tao realized something terrifying. This was just the beginning. Ambassador ZYX Tao adjusted his ceremonial robes as he entered the Galactic Council chamber for the first time. His scales shimmered with nervous excitement. Today, Earth would finally join the Council after decades of evaluation. The massive chamber buzzed with conversations between hundreds of species from across the galaxy. ZYX Tao took his seat near the front, eager to witness this historic moment. The council leader raised 3 of her arms for silence. "We gather today to welcome humanity into our alliance," she announced. Though their home planet carries a Deathworld classification, they have proven themselves worthy. Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Deathworlds were rare and dangerous places where only the toughest species could survive. Everyone wanted to see what these humans looked like. The doors opened and the human delegation walked in. They looked surprisingly normal. 2 arms, 2 legs, no visible weapons. They wore simple black suits and carried strange boxes with holes in the sides. The lead human, a woman with short dark hair, smiled warmly at the assembly. "Thank you for this honor," she said. "We brought gifts to celebrate this occasion. Our people believe that sharing our companions brings good fortune." ZYX Tao watched with curiosity as the humans placed the boxes on the central table. What kind of companions did Deathworld species keep? The woman opened the first carrier and reached inside. "This is Whiskers," she said cheerfully. "He's very friendly." A small orange creature emerged. It had 4 legs, a long tail, pointed ears, and fur that caught the light. The creature stretched lazily and walked across the polished table. Its eyes were bright green and focused. ZYX Tao noticed something that made his blood run cold. The creature moved like a hunter. Every step was silent and precise. Its muscles coiled with deadly grace beneath that soft exterior. Chaos erupted instantly. A delegate from Proxima screamed and dove under his chair. The Arcturian ambassador triggered his emergency beacon. Red lights flashed throughout the chamber as security protocols activated. 3 council members fainted immediately. Others scrambled backward, knocking over chairs and tablets. The chamber filled with panicked shouts in a dozen languages. The humans looked around in confusion. The woman held a cup of coffee in one hand and stared at the chaos with wide eyes. "What's wrong?" she asked. "He's just a cat." The creature called Whiskers sat down in the middle of the table. It yawned slowly, revealing rows of sharp white teeth designed for killing. Its pink tongue curled. Ambassador ZYX Tao felt his legs give out as he collapsed into his chair. One thought filled his mind: what kind of monsters keep apex predators as pets? ZYX Tao locked himself in his private quarters after the disastrous council meeting. His hands still shook as he accessed the restricted database. The humans had finally left with their creature, but the image of those sharp teeth haunted him. He needed answers. The computer screen glowed as he typed, "Earth, Deathworld classification, wildlife analysis." The first file made his stomach twist. Earth's apex predators appeared on screen one by one. Lions that weighed 300 kilograms with jaws that crushed bone. Bears that stood 3 meters tall and could run faster than most galactic speeders. Sharks with rows of replaceable teeth that detected blood from kilometers away. Massive reptiles called crocodiles that dragged prey underwater and performed death rolls. And spiders. Venomous spiders that humans found in their homes and simply ignored, but the next file stopped his heart completely. 10,000 years ago, humans had encountered wild wolves. These were pack hunters with powerful jaws and killer instincts. Any sane species would have fled or fought them to extinction. Instead, humans had done something impossible. They domesticated them. They turned apex predators into companions called dogs. The files showed humans sleeping next to these creatures, letting them play with their children, trusting them completely. HFY scrolled frantically through more data. Earth's weather systems regularly produced storms that destroyed cities. The planet experienced earthquakes, tsunamis, volcanic eruptions, and temperature extremes that would kill most galactic species within hours. Humans built homes there. They thrived there. Video footage showed human children playing in snow, laughing as they threw frozen water at each other. Another clip showed humans swimming in oceans alongside those terrifying sharks, seemingly for entertainment. His communicator beeped with a priority message. The biology report on the cat had arrived. HFY opened it with trembling fingers. The creature's scientific name was Felis catus. Its genetic relatives included tigers, leopards, and lions. Those same massive predators from the earlier files. Humans had taken baby versions of galactic nightmare fuel and invited them into their homes. The report detailed retractable claws sharp enough to shred flesh, night vision that made them perfect ambush hunters, and reflexes faster than most military combat drones. The final line of the report made him drop his tablet. Cats were obligate carnivores. Pure hunters. They needed meat to survive, and their entire biology was designed for killing. These weren't gentle herbivores or peaceful omnivores. These were weapons wrapped in FUR. An emergency alert flashed across every screen in his quarters. The message was simple but terrifying. Code red. Feline entity has breached containment. Location unknown. All personnel remain in secured areas. Somewhere on this station, that orange hunter was loose. And no one knew where it would strike next. The station's security chief, Commander Vrask, assembled his best tactical team in the armory. His 6 eyes scanned the group of elite soldiers who had trained for every possible threat. Pirates, hostile aliens, dimensional breaches, they had handled them all. But nothing in their training covered hunting a Deathworld predator loose in the ventilation system. Vrask pulled up the thermal scans on the holographic display. A small heat signature moved through the ducts above the residential section. Full combat gear, he ordered. Stun weapons only. We capture it alive or the humans will start a diplomatic incident. The team moved through the corridors in perfect formation. Their armor clinked softly with each step. Motion sensors swept the walls and ceiling. Every shadow became a potential threat. Vrask had reviewed the security footage a dozen times. The cat had waited until the human diplomats were in their quarters, then simply walked through the door when someone entered. It had disappeared into an air vent within seconds. The creature's intelligence terrified him more than its claws. They traced the heat signature to the station's observation deck. The room was dark except for a single beam of artificial sunlight streaming through the viewport. And there, stretched out in that golden light, was the cat. It lay on its side, completely relaxed. Its orange fur glowed warm in the sun. One paw stretched forward, the other tucked under its chin. Soft rumbling sounds came from its chest. It looked peaceful. Innocent. Harmless. Vrask knew better. Surround it slowly, he whispered into his calm, no sudden movements. His team spread out in a wide circle, weapons raised. They moved like shadows, silent and coordinated. The cat's ear twitched. One green eye opened and focused directly on Vrask. Time seemed to freeze. Then the creature moved at it was faster than their sensors could track. The cat twisted mid-air, landed on the wall, and bounced to a ceiling beam in one fluid motion. Stun blasts hit empty space where it had been a millisecond before. The creature ran along the ceiling like gravity meant nothing. It leaped between beams with impossible precision. Vrask fired his weapon, but the cat was already gone, appearing on a different surface. It wasn't running away. It was playing with them. One soldier aimed a tracking laser to mark the target. The red dot appeared on the wall. The cat's pupils dilated to pure black. It crouched low, rear end wiggling. Then it pounced on the dot with savage intensity, pawing at the wall where the light had been. The soldier moved the laser and the cat chased it, completely focused on the small red point. They had accidentally triggered its hunting instincts with their own equipment. The observation deck doors opened with a soft hiss. A young human crew member walked in, holding a food tray. She glanced at the fully armed security team and the cat doing acrobatics on the ceiling. "Oh, there you are, Whiskers," she said casually. She made a clicking sound with her tongue. The cat immediately dropped from the ceiling, landing softly at her feet. She bent down and scooped it into her arms like it weighed nothing. The creature pressed its head against her chin, and that rumbling sound grew louder. The human looked at Vrask's shocked expression and smiled. He just wanted to explore. He does this at home all the time. She kissed the top of the cat's head, right between those pointed ears that could detect a mouse's heartbeat from across a room. Vrask felt his combat instincts screaming that she was in mortal danger. But the creature just closed its eyes and tucked its paws against her chest, looking completely content. Then Vrask's tactical scanner beeped with a new alert. A second heat signature appeared on his display. Larger than the first. Moving through the ducts near the engineering bay. His blood turned to ice as he read the designation, Feline Entity 2, mass, 7.2 kilograms. The humans had brought more than one. ZYXTAL requested an emergency meeting with Captain Sarah Chen in the human diplomatic suite. He needed to understand these creatures before another panic swept through the station. The captain greeted him warmly and gestured to a comfortable chair. Before he could sit, something massive and gray jumped onto the seat. The second cat. This one had long fur and golden eyes that studied him with unsettling intelligence. "That's Luna," Captain Chen said with a smile. "She's a Maine Coon. Don't worry, she's friendly." The ambassador carefully took a different chair, keeping his eyes on Luna. "Captain, I must ask you directly. Why do humans keep predators in their homes? Every species in the galaxy maintains a safe distance from dangerous wildlife. You invite them into your beds." Captain Chen laughed and poured 2 cups of tea. "Cats aren't really pets," she explained. "About 10,000 years ago, they chose us. When humans started farming and storing grain, mice came. Cats followed the mice. They decided living near humans was useful. We didn't domesticate them. They domesticated themselves. ZYXTAL's translator struggled with the concept. But you feed them. You care for them. Surely you control them." The captain shook her head. "No one controls a cat, Ambassador. That's what makes them special. Dogs were bred to obey and please us. Cats stayed independent. They live with us because they want to, not because we forced them." She reached down and Luna immediately jumped into her lap, curling into a ball. A deep rumbling vibration filled the room. "What is that sound?" ZYXTAL asked, leaning forward cautiously. "That's purring," Captain Chen said, gently stroking Luna's fur. "It means she's content and happy. Cats purr when they feel safe and loved. They also do this." Luna stretched upward and pressed her head against the captain's hand, then rubbed her cheek along the human's arm. "That's called head bunting or scenting. She's marking me as part of her family. It's one of the highest compliments a cat can give." The captain pulled up a holographic display. "Let me show you what makes cats so remarkable." Videos began playing. A cat leaping 3 meters straight up from a standing position. Another one squeezing through an impossibly small gap because their collarbones floated freely. Slow motion footage showed a cat twisting in mid-air to land perfectly on its feet every time. "They have 32 muscles in each ear," Captain Chen explained. They can rotate them 180 degrees independently. Their night vision is 6 times better than ours. Those retractable claws stay razor sharp because they're protected when not in use. They're perfect hunting machines. ZYXTAL watched video after video of cats stalking and pouncing with lethal precision. Their reflexes were faster than his mind could process. And humans willingly live with these killers? The captain's expression turned serious. Yes, but there's something else you need to understand. She pulled up historical images from ancient Earth. Massive pyramids and temples covered in cat statues. In ancient Egypt, cats were considered gods. Killing one meant death penalty. When a family cat died, people shaved their eyebrows in mourning. We built monuments to them. More images flashed across the screen. Medieval paintings featuring cats. Modern photographs of cats in every possible setting. Then came something that broke ZYXTAL's understanding of reality. This, Captain Chen said, is the Internet. Humanity's greatest information network. And 30% of all content is cat videos. Millions of videos played simultaneously. Cats being silly, dramatic, affectionate, mischievous. Billions of humans watching and sharing these moments. We don't just live with cats, Ambassador. We celebrate them. We worship them. They've conquered our entire civilization without firing a single shot. An alert chimed on ZYXTAL's communicator. Multiple reports flooded in from across the station. Cats had been spotted in engineering, the cafeteria, the command bridge, and medical bay. Different cats. All moving with purpose through the station's corridors. His voice shook as he asked the question he already knew the answer to. Captain, how many cats did you bring aboard? Sarah Chen's smile was innocent, but her eyes held a knowing glint. Does it matter, Ambassador? They're already everywhere. The station's command center erupted into chaos as reports flooded in from every deck. Commander Vrask stood at the tactical display, watching heat signatures multiply across the three-dimensional map. 5 cats had become 7. 7 had become 12. The numbers kept changing as the creatures moved through corridors, ventilation shafts, and access tunnels with ghostly efficiency. They're coordinating, Vrask muttered, studying their movement patterns. Look at the spacing. They're spreading out to cover maximum territory. In the engineering bay, Chief Engineer Krolax slammed his wrench down in frustration. The plasma conduit needed calibration, but he couldn't focus. Something was watching him. He felt eyes burning into the back of his heavily armored shell. Slowly, he turned around. A small black cat sat on top of his toolbox, tail wrapped neatly around its paws. Its yellow eyes reflected the blue glow of the power core. Krolax was a Thorian warrior. His species had conquered 16 star systems through pure military might. He feared nothing. The cat meowed softly and jumped down to his workstation. It walked between his tools, carefully stepping over delicate instruments without disturbing anything. Then it did something unexpected. It sat down directly on the blueprint he'd been studying and looked up at him. The vibrating purr sound started. Krolax reached out one massive claw, intending to move the creature aside. The cat leaned into his touch, pressing its small head against his hand. The purring grew louder. Something strange happened in Krolax's chest. His warrior heart, hardened by decades of combat, softened. The cat's fur was impossibly soft. The warmth of its tiny body contrasted sharply with the cold metal of the engine room. Without thinking, he began gently scratching behind its ears. The cat's eyes closed in pure bliss. Its front paws kneaded the air rhythmically. You are very small, Krolax whispered. But you are mighty. He would die defending this creature, he realized. He would fight armies for this cat. Meanwhile, in the station's research laboratory, Dr. Ven9 examined a peculiar equation when orange fur appeared in her peripheral vision. Whiskers sat on her desk next to the quantum analyzer, watching her work with focused attention. The scientist prided herself on pure logic and rational thought. Emotions were inefficient. Yet when the cat reached out one paw and gently touched her data pad, as if trying to help, she felt something illogical bloom in her mind. "You defy the laws of physics," she said to Whiskers, pulling up her scans. "Your spine has more vertebrae than should be structurally possible. You twist in ways that violate momentum conservation. You land on your feet through a mechanism our best engineers cannot fully explain." Whiskers yawned, showing complete disinterest in his own impossibility. Then he walked directly onto her keyboard, lay down on the warm keys, and stared at her. Dr. Venine tried to continue working. She lasted exactly 30 seconds before her hand moved on its own to stroke the cat's back. The situation reached its peak in the command center. Council leader Char9 was reviewing defense protocols when Luna appeared on her command chair. The massive gray cat had somehow bypassed 3 security checkpoints, 2 locked doors, and a biometric scanner. She sat in the seat of galactic power like she owned it. "Security!" Char9 called out. But when she approached to reclaim her chair, Luna rolled onto her back, exposing her fluffy belly. The council leader, who had negotiated peace treaties between warring empires, found herself unable to resist. She reached down and gently rubbed the soft FUR.BY evening cycle. Every major section of the station had been claimed by a cat. The cafeteria had a tabby who sat on tables and accepted food offerings from dozens of species. Medical Bay had a white cat that somehow calmed patients just by sleeping near them. Even the security office had surrendered. A gray and white cat had made a nest in the weapons locker and no one had the heart to move it. ZYXTAL walked through the corridors in a daze, witnessing the complete transformation of the station. Hardened soldiers cooed at kittens. Serious diplomats showed each other pictures they'd taken of their cats. Scientists debated optimal feeding schedules. The cats hadn't attacked anyone. They hadn't demanded anything. They had simply existed, and existence was enough to conquer every heart aboard. An emergency council session was called for the morning. Ambassador Throck from the Rigel system had filed a formal complaint. He demanded all cats be removed immediately and banned from council space. His species valued order and control above all else. ZYXTAL felt dread pool in his stomach as he read the summons. The vote would be close. Some species would side with Throck's logic. But as he passed the observation deck, he saw something that made him stop. Commander Vrask sat on the floor in his full armor. Whiskers was curled up asleep in his lap. The massive security chief, who had faced down pirates and terrorists without flinching, had tears running down his face. "I never knew," Vrask whispered when he saw ZYXTAL watching. "I never knew something could be so perfect." In that moment, ZYXTAL understood the true terror of cats. They didn't conquer through force. They conquered through love. And there was no defense against that. The council chamber was packed to capacity for the emergency session. Every seat was filled, every species represented. The tension in the air was thick enough to cut with a blade. Ambassador Throck stood at the central podium, his crystalline form glowing with righteous anger. "This madness must end," he declared, his voice echoing through the chamber. "These creatures have compromised station security, disrupted operations, and violated countless protocols. I call for an immediate vote to remove all feline entities from council space and ban them permanently." ZYXTAL prepared to speak in defense of the humans, but something strange caught his attention. Every delegate in the chamber had a cat. Not near them. On them. Ambassador Krolax had the black cat draped across his shoulders like a living scarf. Dr. Venine held a sleeping orange tabby in her arms, occasionally adjusting her grip to keep it comfortable. Even council leader Char9 had Luna sprawled majestically across her lap, the gray cat's tail hanging over the armrest like a banner of conquest. Throck seemed to be the only delegate without a feline companion. His species was silicon-based, running hot enough to make physical contact with cats impossible. ZYXTAL realized with sudden clarity that Throck wasn't angry about protocol violations. He was jealous. Ambassador Throck raises valid concerns, Char9 began diplomatically. But then Whiskers jumped onto the central table. The orange cat walked with regal confidence to the very center, sat down, and began grooming his paw with complete disregard for galactic politics. The chamber fell silent. Every eye watched the small creature cleaning himself as if he were alone in the universe. Then Whiskers looked up, made direct eye contact with Throck, and slowly, deliberately, knocked a ceremonial data pad off the table. It clattered to the floor. The cat's expression showed zero remorse. Several delegates tried to hide their laughter. Ambassador Krolax didn't even try. His deep rumbling chuckle filled the chamber. Perhaps, Char9 continued, struggling to maintain composure as Luna kneaded her lap with sharp claws, we should discuss the practical benefits these creatures provide. Captain Chen stood and approached the podium. With respect to Ambassador Throck's concerns, I'd like to present evidence. She pulled up holographic displays showing the station's pest control reports. 3 days ago, your station had a severe rodent infestation in the cargo bays. Maintenance logged 47 complaints in 1 week alone. The displays shifted to show current numbers. 0 rodent sightings. 0 complaints. The cats eliminated your entire pest problem in 72 hours. No poison, no traps, no environmental damage. Just natural predators doing what evolution designed them to do. Murmurs of approval rippled through the assembly. The cargo bay supervisor, an insectoid named Chiktar, raised his wing. I confirm this report. The infestation that plagued us for months has completely vanished. I found 1 cat in Bay 7 yesterday. She had left 3 dead rodents arranged in a neat line by my office door. Like gifts that they're not gifts, Captain Chen said with a slight smile. She's teaching you to hunt. She thinks you're a really large, incompetent kitten. The chamber erupted in laughter. Even the most serious delegates couldn't contain themselves. Throck's crystalline structure flashed angry red. This is not a laughing matter. These creatures have hijacked our emotions, invaded our spaces, and, his speech was interrupted by a small gray kitten, no more than 8 weeks old, stumbling onto the council floor. It was so tiny it could barely walk straight. Its eyes were huge in its fuzzy face. It meowed, a sound so small and pitiful that every being in the chamber felt their hearts clench. The kitten wobbled toward Throck, drawn perhaps by his heat signature. It reached his podium and looked up at him with absolute trust. The chamber held its collective breath. Throck looked down at the kitten. His species didn't have facial expressions, but his color shifted from angry red to confused yellow to soft blue. I cannot touch it, he said quietly, all rage gone from his voice. My body temperature would harm this small one. Dr. Ven9 stood immediately. I have been researching this. With your permission, I can design a cooling suit that would allow silicon-based species to safely interact with cats. Throck's color shifted to a warm orange that his species used to express deep emotion. You would do this? Ven9 nodded. Every being deserves to know a cat's love, Ambassador. Even those of us who claim logic is superior to emotion. She glanced down at the orange tabby still sleeping in her arms, and for the first time in her career, she smiled in public. The vote was called. Every hand, claw, tentacle, and appendage rose in favor of allowing cats to remain. The count was unanimous. But Char9 wasn't finished. I propose an amendment. All human diplomatic vessels should be required to bring cats to first contact situations. They serve as excellent ambassadors for demonstrating trust and peaceful intentions. The amendment passed with even more enthusiasm than the first vote. Over the following months, the change swept through the galaxy like wildfire. Space stations requested cat populations to handle pest control. Warships found that crew morale improved dramatically with feline companions aboard. A tense border dispute between 2 hostile species was resolved when both sides discovered they'd rather share cat pictures than fight. The black market for Earth cats was shut down when humans established official breeding and adoption programs that sent cats to every corner of known space. Zyxtal sat in his quarters 1 year later, writing his final report on the human integration. A calico cat named Patches slept on his desk, one paw stretched across his data pad. He typed around her carefully. Humanity's greatest weapon was never their technology or their Deathworld durability, he wrote. It was their ability to love the most unlikely creatures and teach the galaxy to love them too. They didn't conquer us with warships. They conquered us with small, fuzzy apex predators that purred. He paused and looked out his viewport at the stars. 3 more human ships were arriving this week, each carrying diplomatic staff and their feline companions. The galaxy would never be the same. Patches woke up, stretched with a massive yawn that showed all her teeth, and headbutted his hand demanding attention. Xenowars set aside his report and began scratching behind her ears. The purring started immediately. In the shadows of his quarters, Patches' eyes gleamed with ancient intelligence. She had trained her human well. They all had. 10,000 years ago, cats had chosen to live alongside one species on one small Deathworld. Now, through patience and purrs, they had inherited an entire galaxy. The humans thought they had brought cats to the stars. But the cats had been planning this all along. Why conquer one world when you could conquer them all? One headbutt at a time.